Hi, thank you for tuning in. My name is Cameron Singh, and I'm one of the co hosts for the Leadership Download. Before we go ahead and go into today's episode, which is going to be talking about self awareness in leadership, just wanted to let you all know about our free online mastermind course coming up. The topic is going to be called Creating Positive Change. Travis and I are going to hold this mastermind on March 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested, please register at theleadershipdownload.com. There you'll find all the information. You can register, and this is free. One of the things as a part of this mastermind course, at the end, we're going to have lots of announcements coming up about some new things we're launching and give you some updates on the leadership download. So hope you can join on March 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, feel free to give us a follow we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can search us by searching the Leadership Download. Follow us on Twitter. All the info is on our website, theleadershipdownload.com. We hope you're enjoying the content, and thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy today's content where Travis and I have an in-depth discussion. This is part one of as we talk about the self-awareness leader and how it's important when you're a leader to be self-aware and the importance of self-awareness. So hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Leadership Download. My name is Travis Van Dusen, and I'm back here with my friend Cameron Singh. Cameron, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing great. So our subject today is the self-aware leader. So we're talking about self-awareness as a leader. We're going to kind of start with a quote from Dan Ryland. As you know, your emotional self-awareness or lack thereof is either a great asset or detriment of your leadership. You know, when leaders are unaware of the gaps and the things that are going on in their lives, they can become very toxic to the people around them. Cameron, have you ever been around a leader who's just very unaware of, their the way they're communicating or the vibes they're putting off?
Yeah, several leaders across my career journey. And this is very prevalent within leadership, where you have a lot of leaders that are really unaware of how they are being perceived in their leadership, how they're perceived with their emotions. You have leaders often play the blame game. So this is very prevalent in today's leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea here is seeing yourself accurately is vital for effective leadership. As a leader, if you lack self-awareness, you may know how to do leadership, but you won't know how to lead. I mean, if you don't know the ins and outs of yourself, you won't be able to lead well. And it really goes back to that, something we've talked about before, Cameron. Is the hardest person we'll ever lead is not anyone on our team. It's not anyone that it's not a customer we'll ever have to deal with. It's not a situation we'll ever have to deal with. It's ourselves. The biggest challenge is the person we wake up and look at in the mirror every morning. So one of the greatest ways to, I talk to people often and, how can I improve my leadership? How can I get better? Well, the primary thing we can do right at the beginning, even before you're leading another person, is learn to lead yourself well. And, I'm a work in progress on this. Cameron, I know you're a work in progress, and there's some areas I do better than others. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through basically 5 levels of self-awareness, 5 levels of self-awareness. So that first level of self-awareness we want to talk about is the awareness of our strengths. Leaders make their greatest contributions to their team through their strengths. Cameron, what have you learned about your strengths?
Yeah, being aware of my strengths, I like validating that through my team. What am I doing good at? What do I excel in? What do what does my team appreciate me? What do they like about me? And I think being self-aware of your strengths is so critical because you want to continue to excel in your leadership, understand where you are, what you're good at. Because if you don't know what you're good at, um, there's no way of really for you to get better and continue to grow as a leader. And going back to a bit more broadly, self-awareness, I think this should be definitely something that leaders should put as a priority. And the reason why is they say it's so hard to lead yourself as a leader rather than leading our teams. And I think that's where we should start is first leading ourselves and becoming self-aware. But going back to strengths, being aware of what we excel in, that's really key and a start to having that self-awareness.
Yeah, I mean, and there's absolutely a couple different ways that you can do this. I mean, even if you're very, very early on in leadership, or maybe you're not even at a leadership position yet, but I mean, some of the ways you can do this is just simply through assessments, Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders. These are tools that are all around. You know, there's tools everywhere now that you can utilize to learn your strengths. But you know, another way that I've always found to be helpful, and this is something that I've often done with you know, for myself, is I've always been comfortable with asking people that I trust, people that I, you know, have respect for, and people that I trust their opinion, to say, you know, what are some of the strengths that you see in me? You know, what are some of the things that you think I do well? Um, a- a- and you can they can begin to help you flesh out some of the ways that you things that you've been successful with, you know. And then another thing you could do is you can always just look back at your past successes and just see where you have, you know, maybe consistently been successful. And oftentimes you'll see that you have some strengths that you have been able to lean on that has helped you be consistently successful in those areas. So that first level of awareness really comes to understanding your strengths. But moving into level 2 is awareness of your gaps. Or another way of saying this would be your awareness of your weaknesses. You know, gaps are areas that you kind of exhibit some vulnerabilities, some limitations. You know, gaps usually are, you know, like in those areas of our lives that maybe we don't possess a lot of strengths, or you know, maybe they're not God gifted situations. But oftentimes, you know, the problem with weaknesses are not that they're weaknesses. The problem, a weakness becomes a problem when we're unaware of those weaknesses.
Yeah, Travis. I think through my experience, finding gaps is really leaning, as you mentioned before on the previous point, leaning on the people you trust the most on your team. Where do they find that you're struggling? Where do they need to see improvement in your leadership? But then again, you don't want to take that upon yourself to build upon your weaknesses. Sometimes it's just areas you're not good in, and you need to lean on your colleagues or team members to that you would delegate some tasks that maybe if you're not good in financials, then you delegate that task to someone else, but then you learn along with that person. Um, and and sometimes we try to, as leaders, and I've experienced this myself, is where we try to sugarcoat things and act like we know it all and act like we excel in all areas, but in reality we don't. We all are different. We all have our own struggles. We all have our own strengths. And I think if we work towards being self-aware of our weaknesses, um, and we lean on people that we trust, it's going to help us develop a good team and also develop our character as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a mentor of mine, you know, once told me that it's very important that we understand our strengths and our weaknesses. And primarily because God gives us strengths, God gives us areas that we excel in, some things naturally, some things with some development. but we also have weaknesses, and those things are there. They're there for a reason. And oftentimes, if we're unaware of our gifting, of what is our strengths and our weaknesses, we tend to attempt things. We tend to go in a direction with our lives that maybe God never intended us to attempt, because it's outside of it's outside of our strengths. Now, there is a piece of weakness that we do have to address, because there is a difference between weaknesses and liabilities. Weakness is saying, like you said, Cameron, I'm not very strong in financials, so therefore that is an area that I like to delegate. For me and my team, I'm not a overly organized individual, so I like to delegate that onto other people on my team that tend to be more organized. I don't like a lot of mundane tasks, so I tend to keep some other people on my team enjoy those kind of just repetitive tasks. But there's the liability side of weaknesses, which is like your character, your being honest, your integrity. Those things, those are liabilities. So those are areas that, as a leader, they have to be addressed. You can't be a leader with low integrity. You can't be a leader and not have high morals. So while weaknesses are important, we have to understand that when we allow these liabilities to come into our lives, then we're looking at sabotaging our leadership. And that is not what we're talking about here. So we're talking about clear weaknesses, not liabilities. The third area, and this is the one I really thought, this third level, I thought was the one that is the most interesting to me, is awareness of your sources of influence. As leaders, our primary way of leading is through influencing people. There's no confusion in that. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Their source of influence might be our source of influence is maybe building relationships. It may be in an expertise. It may be in our character. It may be in our spirituality. But we also have to be careful that we are not building, sourcing our influence from negative areas in our lives.
Yeah, Travis, one of the things that I like to do, and it worked out for me very well, is I like to seek, like my sources of influence are those well ahead of me, that have reached the top, that are positive influences, that'll share their lessons learned about life in general. It doesn't have to be about career, that you seek wisdom from, that are wiser than you. And I found that so much more valuable in my leadership, to surround myself with people that are older than me, above me, have more life experiences, and have reached the top.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I really thought about this, it was like, um, what are you allowing to influence you, right? So, are you allowing a news outlet to dominate your life and it's negatively affecting you? Are you allowing individuals to speak into your life spiritually that should not be doing that? Oftentimes we will listen to or unintentionally seek advice from people who really shouldn't be doing it. But the most important thing is having this awareness that helps us understand what we need to choose as positive sources, and to mitigate the sources that make us vulnerable. So as leaders, we have to have this clear awareness of what is our sources of influence, what is influencing us, and what things are we allowing into our lives that is influencing us as a leader. Hey guys, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Leadership Download. If you found this content helpful and productive for you, just ask you to share or like, comment, or on whatever platform you're listening on. We are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, so we are across multiple platforms. But we thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Also, check out our free mastermind course coming up on March 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. Here we'll be making some very important announcements. So to find out more and to register, you can go to our website, theleadershipdownload.com.